You can see right here, this is the gates that the sun rises through at this point in time. I want to expound a little further on my theories of the flat earth. And this visual should be a good reference to the book of Enoch when it references the windows, or what some of us call it now at times, or some people will say the window of opportunity for the sun to come through the window or the gate. And then we mentioned Polaris or the North Star, and cross-referencing it or comparing it to the Orb of Solomon in the prior video. It also potentially goes into portals, and that also aligns with what they were speaking of with the hole in the ozone layer. I'm sure you remember them speaking about the hole in the ozone layer. They're now saying it's okay and you don't have to worry about it, but prior, a few years back, they were saying that it was something to worry about. And there are holes in the ozone layer, and that would be due to the portals, the doors, the gates, the windows. We'll try to briefly read through a couple verses real quick just to show you a couple references on what it is I'm discussing. It says, this is the first law of the luminaries. The sun and the light arrive at the gates of heaven, which are on the east, and on the west of it, at the western gates of heaven. I beheld the gates whence the sun goes forth, and the gates where the sun sets, in which the gates also the moon rises and sets. And I beheld the conductors of the stars amongst those who precede them. 6 gates were at the rising, and 6 at the setting of the sun. All these respectively, one after another, are on a level, and numerous windows are on the right and on the left sides of those gates. And I was saying that it might be difficult to, take this information in and so forth and process it, but I highly recommend everyone who's following along, do the diligent work, go get a copy, turn to the page, and, study and show thyself approved. We reason for a reason. I'm going to try to keep this quick, though, as I know everyone's time is precious and so forth. It says right here in Genesis chapter 1, verse 16, and God made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also. And I'm bringing these forward for, obviously many reasons and so forth, but I want to give note to how it says two great lights. God made the moon as its own individual luminary source. It doesn't reflect the sun. That makes no logical sense. Just think about it for a moment. I know we've been indoctrinated our whole lives to be taught that it's a reflection of the sun in this heliocentric philosophy, but when you really just take a moment to perceive, or just think about the geocentric aspect for a second, it makes perfect sense when you logically think about it, and also when you follow the scripture. There's no way that you could have a waxing and waning effect going on with the moon if it be a reflection of the sun. If the sun is in one point and the earth be in between that and the moon, you basically have a full moon every single night. That would be reflection of, or you would have something of an eclipse every single night. That would be a reflection of. The fact that it is stuck in a waning or waxing period every single night and continues to grow every single night, or the waning waxing effect, how it goes and so forth. The moon cycles, you know what I'm saying? This is the separation of time. This is literally what God made the sun and the moon for symbols of time. It says it right here in the good word. And God said, let there be lights in the firmaments of heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs, for the seasons, and for the days and years. You just really got to do the diligent studies, you know what I'm saying, hop on board and so forth, you know what I'm saying, see what we see, you know what I'm saying. I'm going to hit a few more topics real quick. Alright, here we go. We got the Mercator map right here. This is another good example of, false doctrine of what we're taught, you know what I'm saying. This isn't an accurate map. It's one of hundreds of many types of maps, and it's a false projection. It's projecting Africa, generally the same size as Greenland and so forth, and Russia much larger than it truly is and so forth. And, obviously there's the racial issue going on.
One modern critique of this is that the distortion perpetuates imperialist attitude of European domination over the southern hemisphere.
The Mercator projection has fostered European imperialist attitudes for centuries and created an ethnic bias against the third world.
But just a false doctrine in general, we need to call it, you know what I'm saying. I'm bringing forth just this note to kind of go into another note of hell, where people are saying that hell is underneath us, it's like in the ground, it's in the earth, you know what I'm saying. That goes into kind of the heliocentric philosophy, where they say that the core is a molten core and it's really hot, when there's really no proof to back that up at all. The deepest we've ever dug is 12 kilometers, and all we found the whole way down was water. So in regards to any type of molten core philosophy, that generally could only be backed up by volcanoes, but that's a completely separate situation. So it's not enough to prove a point and so forth. But in regards to hell being underneath our feet, you know what I'm saying, that's not scripturally accurate. I'm gonna go over some scriptures and really show you, you know what I'm saying, what's going on. The only reason they would bring us to this assumption is probably through where it says that the devil will rule the underworld. Well, we're underneath them right now, you know what I'm saying, because when you look in the book of Enoch, he went to space, you know what I'm saying. He went into the abyss, that black hole, you know what I'm saying. And there's many abysses, because there's also in scripture that you see where it's talking about the oceans being an abyss, you know what I'm saying. And these are all really noteworthy points, because we could reason and expound on all this stuff, like tides, and how tides are in the oceans only, but they're not in lakes or rivers and so forth. But if it's a so-called a gravitational pull from the moon that's causing tides, then wouldn't the gravitational pull also pull rivers and lakes and so forth? Yeah, it's quite compound or complex and so forth. I don't want to make an hour-long video on this. I'm just going to try to keep it as short as possible. I'll show you a couple of scriptures real quick. Hold up. So here we got the book of Enoch. I'm going to try to go through somewhat of a lot of material in a short period of time. So if you could bear with me, I give thanks and so forth. Right here, you can see where Enoch's talking to an angel, and the angel was teaching oppression, tyranny, and sin, and so forth, and blasphemy. And there's no bueno for the angel and so forth, you know what I'm saying? It's no good. So I bring this forth first because I don't want any of my words leading anyone astray from the way. I don't want my words to be perceived as blasphemy and so forth. Just a quick mentioning, I'm going to keep it moving though. So right here, you can see where it says that the flashes of lightning impelled and pressed me forward. This is in regards to him traveling through space. He didn't jump into a hole in the ground. It wasn't a burr device or any machine or anything of the nature. It was more along the lines of an anti-gravitational device, or something that we'd call like a spaceship. But I'm going to keep it moving somewhat of a timely fashion, just because I know, time is short and so forth. So here we go, and you can see where it says, a flame burned around its walls, and its portal blazed with fire. When I entered into the dwelling, it was hot as fire and cold as ice. Now, this is in the book of Enoch, long before NASA, long before any of their discoveries and so forth, but they're just now, figuring out this information to be accurate and so forth. Here's a little clip.
So essentially you have invisible fire in space. What could be more terrifying than that? The neat thing is that when it burns, it's called a cool flame. It burns with a clear blue color, just like that space flame. And it's different.
To keep moving and so forth, we're gonna jump just page after page, I guess, you know, and see what we see. You know what I'm saying? The terrestrial spirits. You know, it's all through and through. You know what I'm saying? Let me kind of see if I can push forward. Okay, here's a good verse right here. It says, issues the water in every abyss. Now, this is kind of what I was talking about in regards to the oceans and so forth being an abyss. So that's just a good little verse to give light to. But I primarily want to jump to, here's a good one. Then the angel said, this place unto the consumption of heaven and earth will be the prison for the stars and the host of heaven. Yay. So this is, once again, when they're traveling through space and so forth. But this would be the chapter. I'm just going to read the whole chapter to you so we can give sight to it real quick. It says, then I made a circuit to a place in which nothing was complete. And there I beheld neither the tremendous workmanship of an exalted heaven, nor of an established earth, but a desolate spot, prepared and terrific. There too I beheld 7 stars of heaven bound in it together, like great mountains, and like a blazing fire. I exclaimed, for what species of crime have they been bound, and why have they been removed to this place? Then Uriel, one of the holy angels who was with me, and who conducted me, answered, Enoch, wherefore dost thou ask? Wherefore reason with thyself, and anxiously inquire? These are those of the stars which have transgressed and commanded. These are those of the stars which have transgressed the commandment of the Most High God, and are here bound until the infinite number of days of their crimes be completed. From thence I afterwards passed on to another terrific place, where I beheld the operation of a great fire blazing and glittering, in the midst of which there was a division. Columns of fire struggled together to the end of the abyss, and deep was their descent, but neither its measurement nor magnitude was I able to discover. Neither could I perceive its origin. Then I exclaimed, how terrific is this place, and how difficult to explore. Uriel, one of the holy angels who was with me, answered and said, Enoch, why art thou alarmed and amazed at this terrific place, at the sight of this place of suffering? This, he said, is the prison of the angels, and here they are kept forever. Alright. Yay. That's a serious chapter right there. You know what I'm saying? We could step outside, check some stars out and so forth, and really be amazed at what we see and so forth. But you know, it is real. It is real. You know what I'm saying? So here we go. This is the night sky. I'm not sure if my camera's gonna pick up the stars or not. It probably won't. But I'll do my best and see if I can zoom in. Seems like there's one right there that I'm zooming in on. So here we are outside. I got a star that I'm zoomed in on, and yeah, it's interesting. I'm just thinking about what it might be and so forth, and why it's there and so forth. After reading the scripture that we just read and so forth, I'm gonna try to zoom out if my camera will permit, and we'll get a wider view of the night sky, and then I'll bring you over here so we can see the moon. And as you see the moon, it's in what appears to be a waxing phase, but honestly it could be a waning, and I can't even tell the difference. But I do know that it's going to hold this position, or this phase of the moon, all throughout the night. That means as the night progresses and so forth, and it takes the directional point or the directional path that it goes through, where it generally just gone through the gates, the same gates that the sun was going through earlier in the video, and it will continue through the night sky, and then it will set. But as it continues through the night sky and so forth, it will always maintain and hold this phase of the moon, what shows that it's not a real reflection of the sun, and more than likely its own luminary source. It's extremely difficult to articulate on, but I highly give thanks for y'all listening and so forth. Here you go. We got Revelations 22, verse 8 through 9. I'm bringing these verses forth because some people, when they gain comprehension that, you know, the stars are actually angels, they worship them as gods, and they basically, that's where the divinity level switches up and so forth. You know what I'm saying? It ain't good to do that. You know what I'm saying? Right here is really where you see good sight to that. You know what I'm saying? We ain't supposed to worship these angels. We worship God. You know, these angels who have information or whatever the case may be. You know what I'm saying? It's important that we use it for good. You know what I'm saying? Check it out. It says, "And I, John, saw these things and heard them. And when I had heard them and seen, I fell down to worship before the feet of the angels which showed me these things. Then said he unto me, See thou do it not, for I am thy fellow servant, and of thy brethren the prophets, and of them which keep the sayings of this book. Worship God." So, you know what I'm saying? That's key. You know what I'm saying? If you want to spend eternity with, you know, Elohim and in Zion, you know what I'm saying? It's past the curtains. If you're going to get stuck in the curtains, you're going to end up in the abyss and so forth, you know what I'm saying? And you don't want to be there, you know what I'm saying? It's not the place to be. It's no bueno. It's all suffering and so forth. You want to make it, you know, past the portals into Zion. You know, how NASA says there's life out there and so forth. You know, there is life out there. There's suffering. There's the abyss. There's hell. And if you can make it past that nonsense, past that black hole, if you can make it through the portal, through the pearly gates, you know, into Zion, into those holy hills, that's where you'll get life ever living. You know what I'm saying? There's no night in Zion. You know, that's what we'll be chanting for years and so forth. And as you see, the sun and the moon, they were created over here in Genesis on earth, in the curtains. You know, I give thanks for y'all watching. Until next time, blessings.
Rastafari.